Okay, I just thought this morning I had a bit of inspiration. I thought to myself, I'm going to tell you guys what our podcast is actually all about, what Mumnonymous is, where it came from. Actually, I won't tell you the actual beginning of it because that's just a long story. But yeah, basically, I was going to start up the podcast again anyway because I feel like I want to share my healing journey and I want to talk to the people like myself who have suffered with BPD for all their lives and not even known it. My friend was diagnosed, I think, 3 years ago, and unfortunately we lost him last July to mental health. And we basically, me and his girlfriend decided, well, I was already going to do the podcast. I was planning to start up, and I said to her, do you fancy doing an episode with me so we can do like Harley's final episode? And after that recording, we had such a laugh. I said to her, would you ever think of actually being on the show as a permanent thing? And so she was like, yeah, go on then, and we can make this about Harley. That's the person we lost. And I think inside of that, I actually grew to understand so much more about Harley because I had a very different relationship to like a normal friendship, if that makes sense, because it was more sort of like a guiding friendship, and like we used to laugh and stuff, but I generally, when we talked to each other, it was like how a touching base. How are you? Where are you at now? What's going on? Are you okay? That kind of thing. You hear about the full story of how we met each other and how we started talking on the podcast. But basically, through losing him to mental illness, now I'm sure you can read between the lines and you understand what that means. It really was one thing that taught me so much, because I've lost people in the past. I know people who have lost people. I've been around grieving before. I've seen a body in a casket before, when they have the open casket and stuff. This hit very different. It was probably one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever gone through. And I'm not going to lie to you, I didn't know Harley that well in a real way, as I found out after. But he was just 19. I'm 42 years old. And he taught me so much about what it's like from his perspective. And bearing in mind, at some point, I was 19 also. Anyway, it hit very different, and it still chokes me now. But we've been recently getting on. I think it's on 3 episodes. We've actually had EVPs, and if you don't know what that is, that basically means usually it's linked with paranormal stuff, but really no one knows really what that is it? That didn't make any sense, but you know what I mean. Yeah, so when these EVPs have come through, they've been 3 different sounds. The first one sounded like a little girl. The second one sounded like a robotic mechanical voice. And the third one sounded like a northern bloke, saying too late. That's what it sounded like he was saying it, like in that accent, too late. And to be honest with you, it's a little spooky. I'm not going to lie. I was very excited when I first got these, because what you've got to bear in mind, we're a podcast based on mental health. This is trying to teach you about what we're going through as we're going through it. Now, from two different perspectives, from someone who's been out with someone with BPD to someone who actually suffers with BPD. And it's a really interesting combination. And that's what I think is a strength, you know, I really genuinely do. And it's to help people, always to help people. If you share your story, sometimes just feeling like you can identify with something it really does matter. And I don't know how it matters, but it's being able to identify and turn around and say, do you know what, I go through that. It makes you in some way feel assuaged. It makes you somehow feel like you're understood without having to speak to someone about your own stuff. Yeah, so that's our podcast. There's spooky, there's sad, there's also a lot of humour, and we've had one really, really lovely guest called Javina, and yeah, you know, I'm hoping to do lots more interviews with people because there's some really interesting people I've seen on this platform. And in turn, if anyone would like to come onto my show and tell their story about mental health, about how they cope, how they're healing, how they have healed, or whatever, any coping strategies, any interesting stories, all you got to do is message me on here. You can DM me or set a comment below, or you can email us, mumnonymous@outlook.com. So if you want to get in contact with us, you're more than welcome to do that. I'd love to hear people's stories. If you do submit through email, you can stay anonymous. I don't have to know your name. You don't have to tell me your name. I don't have to say it out in the show. You can put it in the thing, but always put immediately after your name, anonymous, if you want to be anonymous, because then I know quickly by looking at it, right, that person doesn't want their name revealed, and therefore I won't reveal it. And obviously when I'm editing and stuff like that, I can edit that stuff out if I did it in the recording. So there's never like until we've actually published the episode, it's not in stone. So things can always be edited out if you don't want something in there. But yeah, I'd really love your participation. Believe me, I am a very honest person. If you want to protect yourself, if you want us to protect you, if you want something taken out of the show that you don't want in there, just let us know. I'll do it. So yeah, anyway, thank you for listening. I know it's been a long one, but